And the Prime Minister made the appointment of the Parliamentary Budget Officer temporary, so that he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made.
That's what you remember?
You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there is nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
C'est quoi l'ampleur?
What is the scope of the Liberal deficit? Mr. Speaker, first, I would like to welcome the new pages here in Parliament. There will be a new budget from the government released on November 4th, and that will be the biggest investment budget in generations for Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country's future in a generation. Building homes, building new port infrastructure, new trade corridors, new energy infrastructure, building the strongest economy in the G7.
Well done.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Normalement?
Usually, the current government presents the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. Now, 6 months have gone by, and we still don't know how big the deficit is. This means a lot of uncertainty and pushes away investment and kills 86,000 jobs. It's the first time in the country's history that the Prime Minister won't tell us what the deficit is 6 months into the fiscal year. He says he's a budget expert, so does he know how big his deficit is? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank him for the compliment. Yes, I am a fiscal budget expert. Yes, I know that. Thank you. And I know that the current economic context here in Canada, and what's causing uncertainty is a trade war. We have to control what we can control, and that's investment in our future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, surely, if he was such an expert, he would know the size of his own deficit. It's now halfway through the fiscal year. 6 months have gone by, and he has announced $40 billion of additional spending. Deficits drive up inflation, grocery prices, housing costs, and interest rates. They drive out investment from our country and uncertainty that destabilizes our economy. That's why every other Prime Minister in Canadian history has announced the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. We're 6 months in. Does he even know the size of his own deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know many things. And one of the things I know, the member opposite, the Leader of the Opposition, just mentioned interest rates. One thing I know is that Canadian interest rates are much lower than American interest rates. They're lower because this country's fiscal situation is strong, because this government has a plan to grow this economy, and we will keep doing it. We'll keep it going.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the collapsing economy is bringing down interest rates, but the financial expert doesn't even know what his own deficit is. But another financial expert spoke yesterday. The Parliamentary Budget Officer said the deficit will absolutely be higher because of additional spending. He said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are because they do not exist. He says the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are quotes. Is this why Liberal members on the committee who heard those truth bombs threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the Parliamentary Budget Officer after 166 days?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't recognize that, Mr. Speaker. I don't recognize that characterization. I just appointed the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and this government does have fiscal anchors. This government has fiscal anchors. We are going to spend less so the country can invest more. We are going to balance the operational budget in 3 years. We are going to have a declining level of debt, and we're going to do all of that because we're building the strongest economy in the G7 for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And the Prime Minister made the appointment of the Parliamentary Budget Officer temporary so that he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made. That's what you remember? You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there is nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator. And this Prime Minister wants to silence the Parliamentary Budget Officer from telling the truth about the fiscal mess that he has created under his watch. So will he, Mr. Speaker, legalize math, make the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, and tell us how big the deficit is?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
With respect to consultations on making the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, I look forward to speaking to the Leader of the Opposition, le chef de bloc,
The Leader of the Bloc Québécois.
of other parties in Parliament, so we have a consensus on that appointment. I welcome that opportunity. We will do it at this. Yes, because this is the new spirit, Mr. Speaker, the new spirit of collaboration that has been put forward.
Canada.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
The Prime Minister promised to cap spending, but is now set to double the deficit. Another broken promise, another Liberal bait and switch. Here is what the PBO, Canada's financial watchdog, said about the PM's economic record. Quote, the deficit will absolutely be higher. Quote, I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors. Quote, the labour market sucks. Wages are not going up. My question is this. How high will the deficit go, and what is this government's fiscal guardrail?
Hear, hear. The Honourable L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
So happy to see that our Conservative colleagues are so eager to see the great budget we're going to present on the 4th of November. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canadians indeed. It's going to be a generational investment in the future of this nation, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our country. We're going to protect our communities. We're going to empower Canadians. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're going to build like never before. We're going to build the Canada of the 21st century because you know what, Mr. Speaker? We're the true north, strong and free.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the PBO confirmed the deficit will be higher. Reports indicate it could even push $100 billion. Canadians know that massive Liberal deficits drive inflation. They pay for it at the grocery store as food inflation is 70% above target. And as a result, 25% of households can't afford to put food on the table. Will the Prime Minister admit that having no fiscal anchor and doubling the deficit will only drive inflation higher?
Hear, hear. L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the colleague for giving me the opportunity to share good news with this House, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the rate has gone down, Mr. Speaker, 2.5% today. The Bank of Canada just announced, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives should celebrate. Consumers are celebrating. Businesses are celebrating. Canada is celebrating, Mr. Speaker. One thing that it tells to all Canadians, our plan is working. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The PBO, Canada's top budget watchdog, has painted a dismal picture of the Prime Minister's economic record, saying, quote, "The labour market sucks and wages are not going up." And it gets worse for this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, with his big plan to split the budget into operating and capital. But the PBO is not fooled by the smoke and mirrors. He said, quote, "The bottom line of government will not change. The international public sector standards that everyone uses to measure the deficit and levels of debt will not change." Turns out debt is debt, Mr. Speaker. So can the Prime Minister tell us just how much Liberal debt he's adding to Canada's bottom line?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election only 6 months ago, Canadians chose the Liberal government. They chose the Liberal government because they know they need investment. They need investment in the big projects that are going to drive those great jobs all across the country. They need investment in the skills training that helps evolve the next generation of workers. And they need investment in food for kids, in dental care for adults, and in the many ways that our government can support Canadians.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
However the Liberals want to try and spin their massive deficits, Mr. Speaker, the top financial watchdog in the country says there's only one bottom line, and we'll trust the PBO's word over 10 years of Liberal deficits any day, Mr. Speaker. And with this plan to split the budgets, as if the Prime Minister has forgotten that they're all linked to the same bank account, and there's really only one taxpayer. Right. So with the deficit set to double, let's just call a spade a spade. Will the Prime Minister admit he's really just cooking the books and hoping Canadians don't notice? Right on.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Good news today, the Bank of Canada has reduced interest rate to 2.5%. This is something that all entrepreneurs, all businesses are taking note, and obviously consumers as well. But we're focused on job, Mr. Speaker, and we heard across the country this summer that we need to be there for businesses that were trying to pivot and adapt. That's why we put $5 billion on the table to help them. And meanwhile, we're going around the world attracting foreign direct investments because we need to build Canada stronger.
Here we go. The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
The Parliamentary Budget Officer, Canada's top financial watchdog, just ripped the Liberal job record, saying, and I quote, "The labour market sucks. Wages aren't going up. 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs since taking office. Youth unemployment is over 14%, and Canada now has the second highest unemployment in the G7. Classic, another Liberal bait and switch. So, Mr. Speaker, I have one simple question. Does the Prime Minister have the guts to admit that his so-called jobs plan has completely failed Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With everything going on in the world, we do understand the pressures that Canadians, particularly young Canadians, are facing. This new government is getting busy with nation-building projects, which will create quality jobs, quality careers, and opportunities, in particular for youth across this country, including things like 18,000 jobs during construction of a new Darlington nuclear project in Ontario, for example. Hundreds of jobs in critical minerals and mining in Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Building the strongest economy in the G7 means more opportunities for youth and for all Canadians across the country. Thank you.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' talk is as empty as Canadians' cupboards. It took 40 years before Toronto's largest food bank saw 1 million annual visits. But under this Liberal government, demand has exploded. 2 million, then 3 million, and now 4 million visits from hungry Canadians. The Prime Minister says, "Judge me on food prices." And Canadians are judging him as they stand in the longest food bank lines this country has ever seen. How many more will be forced there when he doubles the deficit?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
One of the best ways to deal with food inflation is to give Canadians real opportunities. And that's what we're doing by building a strong economy, a building economy, Mr. Speaker. We are building big building bold and building right now.
right.
We're building with major projects. I was pleased to stand with the Prime Minister last week in Edmonton where we announced the first tranche of project through the Major Projects Office. We announced our plan to build homes, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian unionized worker, Mr. Speaker. This will create hundreds of thousands of new jobs, apprenticeship opportunities, training opportunities, real careers. We are optimistic about the future of this country, Mr. Speaker, and I hope the opposition gets on board.
Honourable member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that minister should go to a food bank and tell Canadians lining up there just how good they have it. Well, he pats himself on the back. Food bank workers on the front lines are calling the situation horrific. 1 in 4 households are struggling to afford food. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. And while families go hungry, Liberal spending keeps driving grocery prices even higher. Will this Liberal government keep spending until every single table in this country is empty?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader was spending this summer trying to get his job back, we crisscrossed the country getting feedback from Canadians with respect to what they want to see in this budget.
That's right.
Their message was resoundingly clear. They want us to spend less on government operations and invest more in our economy, in national projects, in nation building. Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7.
We will. Yes.
Honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
The Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him at the cost at the grocery store. Well, he's failing. Grocery prices are 70% above their own targets. Since the Liberals took office, food inflation has skyrocketed by 40%. Another broken Liberal promise. Families are struggling to keep up. I don't know if these ministers shop for groceries themselves, so let me put this simply. Beef is up 33%. Canned soup up 26%. Potatoes up 16%. Will the Prime Minister admit that doubling their deficit will only make food inflation worse?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives propose cuts, but we're building over on this side, Mr. Speaker, and they should get on board with that. Every time they have a chance to stand with Canadians, whether it's to vote for childcare, whether it's to support food programs, whether it's to make sure that families get what they need to thrive and survive, including, Mr. Speaker, the investment in skilled trades, the investment in unions, the investment in actual Canadian work, Mr. Speaker, they fail because they have no vision. Their vision is to cut, cut, cut.
Wow. Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Families can't eat the word salad served up by that minister, unfortunately. Food inflation is rising, and 1 in 4 families are currently struggling to put food on the table. Meanwhile, Liberal deficits are fueling inflation, driving prices even higher. Liberals are more interested in feeding bureaucracies in Ottawa than tackling the serious problems facing Canadian families that are struggling to put nutritious food on the table and in their kids' lunch boxes. Food banks and school lunch programs are Band-Aids. We need real solutions to the real root cause of the problem, rising food costs. Will the minister cut the deficit so food...
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this government is protecting Canadians, and that includes seniors. Their safety, their right to housing, their retirement security. And seniors are living longer. They're living healthier lives than ever. And this government will always support and empower Canadian seniors. They're an important part of this economy. And we are showing action, like cutting red tape and constructing purpose-built housing so seniors can age with dignity in their own communities. We are ensuring that seniors have the funds they need to retire and to be able to afford groceries through programs like Old Age Security.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, crime, chaos, and fear are ravaging communities right across Canada after 10 years of Liberals prioritizing soft-on-crime laws. In Saskatchewan, a man out on release after 59 prior convictions murdered 11 people. In Peel region, half of the suspects in a violent carjacking ring were out on bail. Wow. And in Vancouver, just 40 repeat offenders arrested 6,000 times. Yet this government takes no action. Why are the Liberals clinging to laws that let dangerous criminals back on the streets instead of keeping Canadians safe?
Good question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the second bill that we introduced in this House was C2, our Stronger Borders measure, which gives police the tools to deal with many issues, including organized crime. The next thing that we are doing is we are going to stiffen bail and make sentencing a lot more strict. We're going to partner with police services across the country to fight organized crime, and we're going to make it tougher for violent offenders to get bail and impose stricter sentences. Mr. Speaker, we are taking action on this front to make sure that Canadians are safe.
Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
We've been listening to that for 5 months. Empty promises, empty words. Last year, 256 people were charged with homicide while on release. That's 256 Canadians who would be alive today if violent criminals were behind bars. And if Conservatives' 3 strikes you're outlaw were in place, these repeat offenders would have been in jail, not destroying families. Nearly 5 months since taking office, this Prime Minister has failed to act. If he truly wants to crack down on violent crime, will he back our common sense Conservative law to keep criminals in jail and to restore safe streets?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Dangerous people who commit serious crimes should not be walking free in our streets if they pose a public safety threat to Canadians. Mr. Speaker, I have good news from my colleague opposite. He will need to...
I could, after the first couple of seconds, I couldn't hear. So would the Minister like to start from the top?
Mr. Speaker, I thank my Conservative colleagues for the applause. I hope they will meet that with their votes when it comes time to support the legislation. We will be advancing this call. And I have good news from my friend opposite, Mr. Speaker. This legislation will include serious reforms to make stricter bail conditions for people who are repeat violent offenders. It will have harsher sentences for those people who would pose risk to the public safety. Mr. Speaker, we will do what we can to strengthen Canada's laws. We will do what we can to bring the provinces along with us. My only hope is that all members of this House will do the right thing and vote for the legislation when it comes forward.
The Minister promised Canadians that he would build 500,000 homes a year, doubling housing starts. Instead, housing starts are down 16%, and his $13 billion brand new bureaucracy might someday maybe build a grand total of 4,000 homes. That's 1.6% of what we already build. It's a rounding error. Is this really the government's housing strategy, to hope that Canadians don't know basic math?
Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives seem a little confused, so let me help here. First, the projects that we announced were just the start.
Good idea.
Second, they can support up to 45,000 new affordable homes. Third, we have many, many more projects on the way. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time the Conservatives have gotten the numbers wrong, so I'd like to invite them to take a moment, rework their talking points, and we have no intention of slowing down. It's time to build.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Only in Liberal land do you solve for the housing crisis by blowing $13 billion on a fourth bureaucracy after the first 3 already failed. Those numbers are right. And who's leading this master plan? The former mayor of Vancouver. He doubled rent and jacked up home prices by 150%. And just to make the circus more complete, he handed a key role to his buddy from Toronto, the same one who slapped a 700% hike on development charges and oversaw home prices double when she was there. Is this really the definition of success for that minister?
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, once again, we hear the Conservatives trashing local officials, government. That's right. Unbelievable.
Well, the mayor of Montreal, the mayor of Quebec.
They're talking about mayors, they're talking about councillors, they're talking about public servants, rather than looking at themselves. And many of us who have served at the local level have dealt with Conservative governments who did nothing for affordable housing, who did nothing to improve affordability for Canadians. We're taking action and working with our partners at the local level.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to double housing starts, but they're down 16%. It is no surprise when you see who's in charge. The Housing Minister oversaw a 150% surge in home prices and doubled rents in Vancouver, while the new $13 billion housing czar helped hike Toronto home building taxes by 700%. When will the Prime Minister admit that all he's doubling are gatekeepers and deficits?
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, I'll just remind the members opposite, we are focused on building affordable housing at a scale never seen before, certainly not by Conservative governments who vacated the field on affordable housing for their decade in power. That set us back enormously. We are now building back, and we are looking forward. We're going to employ Canadians in building affordable housing at a scale that is unprecedented. We expect the members opposite to support our work. Thank you.
The honourable member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, in Montmorency-Charlevoix, the housing crisis is very real and deeply felt. We're not alone. Across Quebec, people are suffering. A recent study showed that families now spend more than 30% of their income on housing. For low-income families, that figure reaches 70%. All that money is money that can't be spent elsewhere. The housing crisis is costing the Quebec economy $4.2 billion. The Prime Minister promised a lot, but the reality is that housing starts are down 13%, which is not surprising given all the bureaucracy and administrative constraints facing contractors. Will the Prime Minister put an end to the bureaucracy and quickly start building?
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The housing crisis is affecting particularly young Canadians, and that's why we scrapped the GST on first homes. But as my colleague, the Minister for Housing and Infrastructure, said, we've invested $13 billion. We've done a lot of work to build thousands of units all across the country. And by the way, when my colleague's leader was minister, he presided over the construction of only 6 units. We're talking about huge orders of magnitude more now. So we're off to a good start. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Mr. Speaker, some of my constituents have contacted me and my team to express their frustration with delays they experience in trying to contact the Canada Revenue Agency. We know that the dedicated CRA employees provide invaluable services to Canadians, but the fact is demand has increased significantly in recent years and the system needs to be improved. Could the Minister of Finance and National Revenue inform this House of the steps taken by this government to improve service delivery at CRA? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, first I'd like to thank my colleague for her excellent question. The service provided by CRA is currently unacceptable, and that's why I asked CRA to present a 100-day plan to improve services that Canadians are entitled to expect. And I'd like to thank all the staff at CRA for their work. We will provide the technology, the processes, and everything they need to offer Canadians the best possible service that they are entitled to.
Mr. Speaker, the question's to the Immigration Minister. New housing completions are at record lows, but the Liberals are welcoming unprecedented numbers of people under every immigration stream. On top of this, there are potentially millions of people who have expiring visas, and the Liberals don't even know if they will leave. Why is the Immigration Minister letting in people faster than they're building homes to house people who are already here in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our action is working. In the first quarter of 2025, Canada experienced the lowest demographic growth, not counting the pandemic, since World War II. And after implementing our new plan on immigration levels, that will decrease the number of permanent residents and temporary foreign workers. Our goals are clear. We want to make our system viable and attract the best possible talent. Thank you.
So the minister claims, she just claimed that there's no problem, that everything's okay. So she's spreading misinformation because the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report says that the Liberals' current immigration plan, the one that she just said is working, leaves a massive housing gap because the minister is still setting levels way too high. If Canada's to be a place where everyone can succeed, we need to ensure that everybody has a place to live and call home. So why is the minister spreading misinformation while still welcoming unsustainable numbers of people to Canada when Canada's in the middle of a housing crisis?
Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, let me repeat it in English so she and other members understand from her party. Our measures are working. In the first quarter of 2025, Canada recorded the smallest non-pandemic population gain since government started to keep records, 1946. We're following through on our immigration plan, and that is reducing our temporary resident number and our permanent resident number by 20%. Our plan is clear to bring sustainability to our system, attract best talent. Our student and temporary worker admissions are down by 50%. Asylum claims are down by a third.